Francisco, home to our nation's most beloved icons. But before the arrival of the Spanish in 1769, California was home to many vast native populations, one of whom, the Ohlone, we were lucky enough to speak to a descendant of.
We Ohlone Indians and our ancestors were able to live off this land for thousands of years only because we lived sustainably. Upon our vast natural landscapes, we gathered nuts, acorns, berries, seeds, oysters, and we speared fish and deer for food. There were thousands upon thousands of birds everywhere. In the streams there were river otter and biwa, and in the bay there were whales and sea otter and so many sea lion that the Europeans thought it looked like pavement. After the advent of Spanish mission culture in 1769, our Ohlone culture was disrupted and our practice of sustainability lost.
When the Dons brought their culture and the ripple of their silver tongue to the golden land of California, great herds of longhorn cattle roamed where populous cities now stand. Cities that grew up around pueblos, which had in turn been nurtured by the mission.
But not everything was a field of gold for California. The arrival of the Spanish heralded a new beginning with the introduction of livestock and hundreds of new plants and animal species, which not only diminished the natural biodiversity, but transformed the culture, the landscape, and the bay for all posterity. As the Europeans continued their presence in California, it's not until 1849, with the discovery of gold and the influx of Americans from the East and settlers from all over the world, that we see the true population influx that really changed the landscape of California, and in particular San Francisco Bay, as new buildings and towns and sewage systems were developed. Well, not really sewage systems, because the water in the bay was used as the sewage system until around the mid-20th century. And as industry and business and population boom, we see the bay being used as a receptacle for all those chemicals and industrial engineering. From settlement to the gold rush to industry and to the present day, the San Francisco Bay has been deleteriously affected by wasteful human activity.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
In order to understand what to do to help restore the San Francisco Bay to a healthy status, one must first understand the mechanisms of pollution which are currently occurring within the San Francisco Bay. Of course, it is not just the bay that is affected by harmful human activity. As naturalist Jenny Panlilio explains, the entire watershed is affected by the wasteful practices of everyday life.
To understand the impacts on the bay, we really have to go upstream to somewhere like this creek. Think about the runoff that comes here from the farmland. For example, it rains, and the rain will travel to the lowest area, which is obviously this creek. So a lot of pesticides and fertilizers go here. But not just farmland. Think about Berkeley itself. Think about the parking lots that don't have ways to seep in the water. The oil, the drainage, the coffee you throw when you park your car finds a way to creep downhill and dumps into the bay. And really, this affects the bay's ecosystems as well as the creek's ecosystem. Like, for example, one chemical that they've seen is aryl hydrocarbon hydroxylase really affects this population of flounder. Let me get you one. Look at this flounder. It's pregnant. Unfortunately, it will not produce as much eggs as it should. Aryl hydrocarbon hydroxylase has decreased its fertility, and you can imagine if there are less eggs, there are less babies and less adults for the future, which is a really big problem for this population. Let's let it go.
So not only is the water quality affected by wasteful practices, but the surrounding species of animals and plants which require clean water and which we as humans require for sustainable living.
This bay behind me used to be a rich resource of seafood. There was so much diversity. I mean, you could literally taste the diversity that was here. I mean, the striped sea bass and shark, they were all delicious and healthy sources of omega-3 fatty acids. But now, we can't draw as freely from this resource because we've added so many contaminants to the water. I mean, the water is green. It's not supposed to be green.
From the mercury in the bay to monoculture on land, the invasive nature of harmful human practice has directly caused the transformation of the surrounding land of the San Francisco Bay, as Abraham Diaz explains.
Invasive plants are plants that have evolved in one region of the world and have been moved by humans to another region. They thrive in the absence of natural predators and diseases and can quickly spread out of control. Many invasive species form monocultures that push out native species and reduce the food and shelter needed by the native wildlife. This is a huge threat to the biodiversity of the ecosystem.
These threats to biodiversity and natural sustainability, chemical and industrial pollution, invasive plant species, and monoculture, consumer waste, are all byproducts which can be prevented in order to restore the bay to its pristine past. There are several ways in which an individual can help this process of restoration along. First is to know the effects of what you buy. Take, for example, your everyday brand of sunscreen.
I'm going to be diving into the water and exploring the ocean.
Hi there. I'm from the Bay Conservation Commission, and I see you're putting this sunscreen on.
Yes?
Can you please read some of the common ingredients?
Sure. Homosalate, titanium dioxide.
Please stop. Homosalate? Homosalate is a chemical formula that is a common ingredient in these sunblocks and these sunscreens. And it has a hydrophobic portion to it, cyclohexanol, that doesn't combine with the water, so it causes a physical stress for the ocean. And then also you said the second ingredient was what?
Titanium dioxide.
Titanium dioxide. That is a carcinogen that causes respiratory tract cancer. And also there's certain common ingredients in these sunscreen and sunblocks that causes the growth of certain viruses in these algae that contact the coral reefs and decreases biodiversity. You know, they become skeletal. Did you know that?
Did you know that? Indeed, Nita. The information gained from accessing such radically transparent data, from books, articles, or even websites such as those which can calculate your water footprint in order that any average person may mitigate their pollution contribution by simply knowing the effects of what they are doing.
What we see in the store, what we put in our homes, what we use every day, all those objects, all those friendly products that we're so used to, has a hidden legacy, which has to do with their impacts on the environment, on our health, on ecosystems, on the people that made them.
From knowing the effects, the next step is to become actively involved.
A big part of what students can do is not just take care of your own garbage, but if you get really obsessive, like I do and like David does, you walk around picking up trash when you see it, especially when you see it, getting close to the creek and the riparian corridor. In fact, we have every semester, coming up usually in the end of September, beginning of October, we'll have a creek cleanup day, and we will publicize that on the sustainability webpage and on the main Cal Events webpage. And you can come out at lunchtime. We'll give people gloves, and we send you out on the campus with a trash bag liner and a pair of gloves, and you just go pick up trash.
As Tim Pine illustrates, helping is as easy as picking up the trash you leave behind. It will take the effective action of people like you to help bring back the beauty of biodiversity to the iconic landscape of San Francisco Bay.